What's up, guys? Welcome to the Peer Review Podcast. My name is Caleb Davis.
And my name is Brett, and we have some notes.
The Tigers have been on a heater as of lately. The Tigers are 31 and 11 since August 11th, and they've won. They went 8-2 in their last 10 games. We just clinched our first wild card berth after a 10-year playoff drought, and I just cannot say how excited we are as Detroit fans to see all of our sports on the up and up. Not the Pistons yet, but we got
They're
the
getting
Lions
there.
and Tigers. Yeah, spearheading that push, and hopefully they're up next. But right now we're celebrating the Tigers.
Yeah, it's just really great to see because I remember, like you said, it's been like a decade-long drought. Going to baseball games with my dad, back in like the Miguel Cabrera, Prince Fielder, Torrey Hunter, Austin Jackson, Justin Verlander, all those guys back in the day. We had a really exciting team, and it makes me really sad, like how stacked our team was with like future Hall of Famers, and we weren't ever able to bring home a championship. But baseball is funny like that sometimes. Like all it takes is a random team to get hot and out of nowhere, and it just like totally subverts your expectations. But hopefully, that's what happens with us, because like you said, I believe before we started this big push, we were under 500. We were sitting at like 50 and like 60 or something like that, right? And like this final push has been like very impressive to see. So yeah, just overall really proud of the team. Scooble, our ace pitcher, has just been leading the charge and just been lights out for like the past month or two, and it's really throughout the whole year. And our bats just finally came alive to give our great pitching the run support that they needed. And yeah, everything is like playing complementary baseball, offense, defense, everything coming together. It's just really good to see. So happy to see what the Tigers do in the wild card round. I think we might possibly play the Orioles, but we'll see how the seeding gets matched up. Because as you baseball fans probably already know, it's only a 3-game series for the wild card instead of 7. So we gotta keep it strong and show out for our singular home game and win an away game, and then hopefully make it to the next round. So yeah, we'll see how it
Underdogs
shakes out.
stand up. But for today, we are going to be going through our top 10 NBA teams heading into the 2024-2025 season. We're going to split this up into two parts. So we're going to start from 10 and go up to 6. And then in our part 2, we'll cover our 5 to 1. So stay tuned for that. But basically, our criteria for this list, we're just looking at the teams overall, how we kind of feel they're going to play out during the season, how we feel about like their roster additions, players coming into for example, like Jimmy Butler's coming into a contract year, how we think stuff like that would play into their team success, and yeah, just overall monitoring and ranking the teams as we move forward. So I'm going to go ahead and kick us off with my number 10, and shocker, I have the Miami Heat as the 10th best team coming into the next year's season when it hits time for the playoffs. So I just want to start off by saying I think the biggest addition to the Heat this next season will be Bam's addition of his 3-point shot. I think it was a real thing towards the end of last year, and he didn't start shooting threes until about midway through the season, but I think that's just going to add another layer to the Heat's offense. Even during the summer, you saw him with Team USA. He was hitting like pivotal corner threes, especially I remember against South Sudan. He hit 2 key corner threes that kind of helped us get it back in that game and seal the win. And last season, he shot 35.7% from three on low volume, albeit he only took 42 attempts and made 15. So obviously, we'd hope to increase that volume, but I think it's only going to add to their motion offense and those handoffs at the top of the key that he likes to run with Duncan or Tyler. I think that'll become more deadly as long as he is not reluctant to shoot it. Like as long as he's okay with, I think he should be around 3 to 4 attempts a game. I think as long as he shows the defense that yes, he will take that shot and he can hit that shot at around that same clip, I think that will be a great addition to his game. And I think it'll also open up a two big look, kind of similar to how he was with Anthony Davis in like the Olympics, because we just signed our rookie Khalil Ware, and those two as like stretch 4 and stretch 5, rim protecting, switchable bigs would just be a great defensive look. And then moving forward, Jimmy Butler is going into a contract year, which I mentioned earlier, and he was hoping for a max extension. He didn't end up getting it. So I think he's going to play out this contract year and just see where things end up. And players typically is well players around the league, when you're in a contract year and you're playing for your livelihood, you're going to give it your all, because you're trying to secure your next bag. That's your paycheck, that's your career, you're trying to make sure you're getting paid. So I'm expecting a big year from Jimmy Butler. He saw a little bit of a decline last year, like across the board. His finishing went down around the rim, his field goal percentage, like it dropped. He in 2023 he was around 53.9%. Last season, he was at 49.9%, and his attempts at the rim were lower this season. And I'm not sure if that was due to injuries, because he was hurt a lot during the season, which has kind of been the story of his time with Miami. Outside of the postseason, he's typically banged up, and the playoff Jimmy, he doesn't really always prioritize the regular season. Um, but one good thing about last year, he had his best 3-point shooting season, where he shot 41.4% from three, and he didn't take as many attempts as you would like to see, just because you have to keep the defense honest, in my opinion. And I think that him being able to shoot the three ball like he did last season is just another addition that we can look forward to. And then as far as our young players, we have Jaime Jaquez, Nikola Jovic, and I think Khalil Ware. And I think the Heat are banking on big leaps from both Jaime Jaquez and Jovic. And I see that happening. Jaime Jaquez was named All Summer League team this summer, along with our rookie center Khalil Ware. And if Jovic continues to improve as a jump shooter and defender, I think he'll be a great four next to Bam in the future, with his playmaking, his scoring ability, and just his overall size, because he's a big body, believe it or not. The one thing I've been kind of monitoring with the Heat is if they're going to keep that pair of Tyler Hero and Terry Rozier together. Um, if I had to say, I would like to move off of Tyler Hero. I think he has hit his ceiling as a not shot creating, but as a scoring guard, and I don't think he works super well with the core that we have in place now. As far as like defense, I'd prefer him in like a 6-man role, but I don't think that's going to happen with the amount of money he's making. But albeit, I think they'll still be a solid team coming into the season, and I think when it comes time for the playoffs, they'll be one of those top 10 teams heading in.
For sure. Do you think that Jimmy like deserved that max contract? Do you think? What are your thoughts on that?
Um, if if you were going based off just straight playoff performance, yes, but based on his regular season play, no, because he doesn't, like I said, he'll sit out games like every other week, and when he does play, he'll, I don't want to say he half asses it, but like you definitely notice a
The
difference
intensity
between,
isn't
yeah,
as like there like as
and it's
much.
just
Yeah.
very, is very, very apparent.
Hmm. For sure. Yeah. Okay. I can move into my top 10. So the first team that I have sitting at number 10 are the Los Angeles Lakers. As we know, the great one of the greatest players of all time, the greatest player of all time, depending on who you ask. If you ask me, I would say yes. And LeBron James, the average gave you 26, 7, and 8 last season on an efficient clip, shooting over 40% from three and over 50% from the field at 39 years old. But at the end of the day, he's only one person, and that's kind of been the story of his time in LA. I feel like he lacks like the depth and the elite shooters surrounding him to truly make it all the way, especially now as he's aging and it's just getting harder to stay healthy and to stay productive for that long of the 82 game regular season. Um, and AD is still a great player, obviously still a franchise player, a cornerstone for them. And he's been averaging 27, 13, and 4, night in, night out. Plays great defense, but one thing that I thought was kind of interesting to note is that the Lakers recently they released their starting lineup, and they have AD playing the 5 again. And I personally don't think that's a wise decision. At least like from like a defensive standpoint. And like yes, AD is a great defender, but whenever we see him go up against like true upper echelon big men at the 5 like Embiid and Jokic, it seems like he struggles a lot. Just like kind of matching up against their size. So I would like to see. I wish like the Lakers were more aggressive in the offseason with pursuing like a true center. I don't know exactly who you mean would even really be available right now, but um, it's just kind of like one of their glaring weaknesses, in my opinion, especially from like a post defense perspective. Because and like AD has to sit at some point, and it's like who do you have behind him that can actually match up? I mean, I guess you could say like Jared Vanderbilt, but again, like long arms, good wingspan, but still like undersized when it comes to like guys like Embiid and Jokic. But with that being said, yeah, I mean they're still a great team. I don't think they're top five though, so that's why I have them at the number 10 spot. But they still have the combination of veteran leadership from AD and LeBron, playoff experience, and the occasional elite performances from them. You know what I'm saying? Um, yeah, LeBron is still very much capable of dropping like 40 or 50 points like randomly if he feels like it. And I think that solidifies them in the top 10. But yeah, statistically, they hover around um, the middle and some like key metrics, especially like defensive efficiency. And just sometimes it seems like they lack effort and tenacity from their role players too, which isn't what you really want to see, especially from a team that is led by such experienced veterans. So I don't. Hopefully that changes with some of the coaching changes that are being implemented over the offseason. But yeah, with that being said, I feel like they're good enough to make some noise, but I don't know if they're gonna. I don't know if they're really gonna make it out of probably like the first round, but we'll see what happens with that this season.
Fair enough. What do you think about the getting rid of Darvin Ham and bringing in JJ Redick? Do you kind of see that taking them further, or is it kind of JJ Redick? He's a rookie coach. I don't know.
I think like it's tough because I feel like if they were like in like a state where they were like younger and like they could like grow together in like a kind of what's bro's name, the Celtics head coach, I forgot, Missoula,
Yeah, Joe Mazzulla.
yeah, I think like in that vein, like him coming in and kind of having like a young core to build off of and trying to make some moves and kind of form his own identity together with the team, like that's cool. But the way it stands right now, like especially with them not making any like big splashes in the offseason besides drafting that guy from Tennessee, what's his name, like Dalton something, I don't know.
Yeah, Dalton Connect.
Yeah, Dalton Connect. Yeah, like I mean, like he'll probably be a good addition, but it's just like I just don't see anything putting them over the top of where they were last year. Like I feel like we'll get a very similar, like like bottom tier play-in team performance. Really, is probably what you can expect out of them, in my opinion. But I would love to be wrong, but I just yeah, that's just how I kind of see it.
No, that's fair enough. So moving into my number 9, I actually have the Lakers here. And I just want to start. Last season, they went 47-35, and this was even despite that long drought of losing after the NCAA tournament win. And kind of where I wanted to take this, I wanted to start with their coaching. That's kind of why I asked that question to you. But I think getting rid of Darvin Ham was a must after last season. I don't think he was the right coach for that job.
Kid
I
was
think
standing around
on
with his hands in his pockets.
yeah, I think on too many occasions he was over, like he was messing with the lineup too much. I didn't like things like that. I thought his scheme at times was it wasn't always what I would go with, and I think I didn't like how he like was unwilling to make adjustments like ever. He always was like, you know what, I'm just gonna let whatever's happening happen, let my guys play, and that's not the strategy I think a lot like elite coaches around the league take. And I'm not even trying to say he is an elite coach, but he wasn't doing what he was supposed to. Like he always would fail to call timeouts. Like he'd let teams go on big runs, and his philosophy was always just kind of like, let's just let the guys figure it out, which sometimes can work, but like when you hit the postseason and games mean a lot more, I didn't that's not the strategy you should be taking. But this season, bringing in JJ Redick, I think he's going to help with their 5-out approach. He's just a brilliant basketball mind, and I don't know exactly how it's going to translate because, like everyone mentions, he has no NBA coaching experience. And I'm not saying it's going to be an easy job and he's just going to come in and kick ass right away. But I don't think he's going to be horrible. I feel like we see a lot of former players come in and become coaches and are pretty successful. So I have optimism as it pertains to his
Unless
job
you're
with the
Steve
Lakers.
Nash.
Yeah, oh yeah. Mine is him, but you got guys like Jason Kidd, Ty Lue. You see stuff like that, and Doc Rivers even at times. But yeah, it's just that's kind of what I'm banking on as far as like helping the offense. I think he'll bring a little bit more out of a lot of their schemes and just make guys feel a lot more comfortable. But yeah, the Lakers are kind of banking on their young players this season. They gave Max Christie that big 4-year, $32 million deal. and they're kind of that just kind of shows that they have faith in him and they're looking ahead and they're kind of valuing him as a 3 and D two guard and like kind of like their lead point of attack defender. And then they also brought in Dalton Connect, and he is a older college player, so he's more NBA ready right now. So he's gonna come in and provide 3 point shooting. He can shoot on the catch, he can shoot on the move. He's athletic and he has playmaking in spurts. I was watching him a lot in summer league, and he played pretty well. Especially for like I said, he's a rookie coming into the NBA, but has that experience. And I've seen JJ Redick talk about him a bit, how he's one of the, I think I don't want to quote him exactly, but he said he's basically in the top and upper echelon of shooters in the league already, which is a great compliment coming from one of the best shooters of all time and your head coach. And then as far as roster upgrades, though, that's kind of the direction I think the Lakers need to take to bolster them up this list. Because as it stands right now, I think they still need to add. They need to find a backup center, and this has been an issue the entire time. And you kind of touched on
They
this,
should have
but
never let the White Howard go.
yeah, they should have never. When like I say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. They they tried to fix it too many times, and they kind of screwed up that formula that they had to help them win the title. But people have been saying it for years. They need a backup center because Anthony Davis can't do everything. Like everyone, the Lakers are horrible the second he goes to the bench. And they just have not found a way to bring in someone who's at least formidable. Like if AD misses time, the Lakers are cooked, and it's always it's always like that. And it's so frustrating because a lot of their weaknesses are kind of, it's, I don't want to say obvious, but like the common person can notice like they need a backup big, like they need more defenders on the team. They need like that's their two biggest things, but a backup big and point of attack defenders. And I kind of two people that I would love for them to look at, and it was rumored this summer, but nothing happened. I think bringing in like a Bruce Brown could help. Let's say you get rid of D'Lo and bring in Bruce Brown and have Austin Reeves and Bruce Brown as your guard core, or even like bringing in like Jeremy Grant and having him play either small forward or power forward next to LeBron and AD. I think they mesh really well together because he's a good shooter. But I just think you have to capitalize on this LeBron and AD window right now. I think LeBron is coming to the end of his career, obviously, and I don't think he's ever gonna fall off a cliff and be terrible. But right now, you still have two top 10 players, and any team with two top 10 players has a chance. And that's kind of why I have them this high. And then one thing I didn't mention, last season they were super healthy. Like LeBron played 71 games and AD played 76. Like you can't ask for much more. And I don't know how healthy they're going to be this season, but if all things are the same going forward, they're going to stay at 9. But if they make the necessary moves, I could see them moving up to near closer to the top 5 and making some noise in the West. But yeah, I'm looking forward to them next season. I think they'll be pretty formidable.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I echo all the points that you said. And then going on to my number 9, I have my dark horse candidate, the Orlando Magic. You know what I'm saying? I really think that this team's going to take a big leap this upcoming season. You know, they went out and they acquired KCP from Nuggets, and they got Corey Joseph. They re-signed all their core players. I think Paulo is going to take a big leap next year. You know, with the scoring ability and efficiency. He reminds me almost like I saw this comparison the other day, and it made a lot of sense. It was uh, like Blake Griffin, like when he was on the Pistons, and he kind of took more of like a point forward role, but he was still like dominant and was like smart in the post, using his like his body to like manipulate defenders and like kind of, but like still like be able to handle the ball, like shoot the three, and he got like way better at shooting at that point. I really think Paulo is going to be like similar efficiency, so like I think that would be really cool to see if he takes that leap. And then yeah, adding again, and I don't want to undersell how important adding KCP was to that team. This because of the spacing he adds and the perimeter defense he adds. One of the best like two-way guards in the league. I think they can make some noise in the East if they get hot. Obviously, especially if they're like injuries to upper echelon teams like the Celtics, Knicks, 76ers, etc. But yeah, like look for them, him and Franz Wagner in that core to make some noise there. And Yeah, I mean, he was healthy basically all of last season. He only missed like 2 games, 23 points per game. Um, I just yeah, if he can improve his shooting, I think, which he has steadily been increasing. I mean, like over like from the last season to the season before, he basically shot 4% better from three, went from like 30% to 34%. So if he can kind of just keep trending upward on like a higher volume, I think that he's going to be like very good and hard to contain on the offensive end. And yeah, like so look for them to take a big leap. I think that he has all the tools necessary to do so, and for him to lead his team to make
Do,
some noise in the East, especially in like a slightly less stacked Eastern Conference.
do you see them being like a top four seed or lower, or where do you kind of have them?
I think they're gonna be like like 6 to 8. I say like
6 to
six to
8?
eight. Hopefully, we'll see.
Okay.
But yeah, that's kind of where I have them at.
Fair enough. They were like my toss-up team. It was either me having them or the Heat at number 10, and just out of sheer respect for what the Heat have accomplished with this Jimmy Bam core over the years, I kind of gave them the nod. But I could see it going either way, and yeah, I think that KCP edition he's one of my favorite role players in the league. Like we saw him on the Pistons, and then he became what he was on the Lakers. He was amazing for them. Won a title with them. Went to the Nuggets. Won a title with them, and he's just a winner.
All of our
He's a
best
good
players
dude.
always leave.
Yeah, and go win rings. Yeah. What can I say, man? But moving on to my number 8, I had the Milwaukee Bucks, and I just want to say I am so excited for them to get a full training camp under Doc Rivers. I don't. It was kind of hard for them to because they moved off of Adrian Griffin last season, and they didn't have a lot of time to mesh and gel. It's hard to bring in a new coach, a new scheme, a new system in the middle of the season. So I think that kind of was an issue for them. During not kind of, it was an issue for them because you're trying to assimilate everyone to all of these new, like I mentioned, schemes and different play styles, and that's the type of stuff that takes an entire offseason. But this offseason they added Torian Prince, DeLon Wright, and Gary Trent Jr. And the two names that I really want to touch on were the Torian Prince and Gary Trent additions. Torian Prince was great for the Lakers last year when he was used correctly. When Darvin Ham had him coming off of the bench and he was in more of a reduced role instead of the starting small forward, he was really good. He's a great shooter. He is a solid defender. He's not the best athlete, but he can move his feet. He stays with guys, and he doesn't make many mental mistakes. And he can get hot, and he's just a spot up shooter. And I think when Chris Middleton has to miss games, Torian Prince is gonna slot into that role at times, and he's gonna be great. It was kind of funny that Darvin Ham went back to the Bucks, and he brought Torian Prince with him. I know we all saw all the jokes all season about them, and I don't know, that was kind of humorous for me. But then onto the Gary Trent Jr. edition, they got him at the minimum, and he's basically Malik Beasley replacement. And I just think for a minimum pickup, because he was supposed to get a big contract, but the market kind of wasn't there for him, he is a great addition. I think I know he is a much, much, much better defender than Malik Beasley, and their shooting is about the same. Gary Trent Jr. last season shot 39.3% from three on 6.4 attempts, and Malik Beasley shot 41.3% from three on 6.9 attempts. So pretty close approximation of his shooting while also being a much better defender, which I think you need when you're pairing someone next to Damian Lillard, because obviously he struggles a bit, and you don't want him guarding like the team's best guard. You need a guard to take over a lot of his assignments, make his job a little easier. And the main thing I want to look at this season is how Dame immerses himself, because he finally has a year under his belt. It was his first time in his career where he was playing second fiddle to someone better than him. On the Trailblazers, all those years, he was the lone dog. He was the alpha. He was the guy leading the charge. And last year he had to take a back seat. And I think you kind of saw that in the dip in his numbers last season. He was hesitant at times, and he was a little more reluctant to take like some of his normal shots. Like last season, he averaged 24.3 points on 7 assists, and his 3-point percentage dipped a ton. He was at 35.4% from three on 8.5 attempts. So high volume, but he didn't shoot as well. And in the 8 games without Giannis, though, he averaged 29.9 points per game, 7.6 assists, and 4.3 rebounds. So that scoring went up a ton. And I don't think Dame regressed as much as his numbers showed because in the playoffs, he was great. Albeit 4 games, he averaged 31 points per game on 42% from the field and 41.7% from three on 12 attempts, which is insane volume. He was shooting lights out. He was amazing in the playoffs, and that just shows like once they get there, they can make things happen. And I think especially if Giannis can stay healthy, because he's had a little bit of the injury bug as of late when it's come to the last few postseasons. We saw that when he went against Miami 2 years ago. We saw that against the Pacers this year. And I think if the Bucks were healthy, they would have beat the Pacers. And I don't know how that route plays out. I'm not gonna try and predict like what would have happened because it didn't happen. But I think the Bucks are a lot better than they proved last season, and I think they're gonna come out this season kind of on a revenge tour.
Yeah, man. We're waiting for the Milwaukee Bucks revenge tour for sure. I agree. And yeah, I think. Well, I'll touch on that more later. But first, I have the Philadelphia 76ers at number 8. I don't know this is controversial because everybody's gonna be like, "Why are they so low?" Okay, but like, hear me out. You know what I'm saying? Hear me out. I do like the acquisitions of Paul George, Drummond. You know what I'm saying? Reggie Jackson, Caleb Martin. I think that core right there, like that's those are all solid additions. Those are all great players, right? Reggie Jackson, you know what I'm saying, come in as a good backup guard. Tyrese Maxey handle the offense, and that's great. Paul George, obviously, we know what Paul George is. You know what I'm saying, in that great point forward role. Still a great defender. He's pushing 35, I think, but he still definitely has a lot left in the tank. And he's gonna be able to guard the best opposing forward. So I think that alone has a lot of value to the 76ers, you know what I'm saying? But my thing with them is I feel like the team will only go as far as Embiid will take them. And in my opinion, he hasn't shown me enough and that he can stay healthy for long enough like periods of time in order for me to put them above another team on this list. So for me, they're like kind of like the Dallas Cowboys of the NBA, you know what I'm saying? I feel like I hear like every year. Well, I think it was really just Philly fans in general, really, not even just like Dallas Cowboys fans, but like they swear every year is this year, and we've been trusting the process for like I don't know, like 7, 8 years, and I feel like at some point it's like you have to get over the hump. And I guess we were waiting a long time for that to happen with the Celtics as well, but I think that if yeah, they have about like a 2 year window, and I think that if this doesn't happen, I think it's time to blow it up, but. I mean, I would keep Maxi, but like, yeah, like the Embiid thing is just like as great as he is at an MVP player, as an MVP level player, and honestly, his contract is probably too big to where nobody would probably even want to like. He probably won't be able to move off the 76ers for a minute anyway. But I just like don't know. They might just be like stuck in purgatory because it feels like they haven't been able to get over that hump for me. But hopefully, like I said, Paul George stays healthy, and Maxi, that like trio right there can take them over the top to advance this year. But we'll see. It kind of just depends on how it shakes up with injuries, in my opinion.
I kind of have them. Well, I have them higher on my list, so I'll get to them in our later on. But I kind of agree with you that they have about 2 to 3 seasons before this window kind of closes because by that time, Paul George is going to be pushing 37, 38. Embiid's going to have more mileage on his body. The injuries are going to add up more and more because he's only going to get like as you get older, your body isn't gonna start treating you better. Like you're not gonna get more healthy. It's just gonna get worse and worse. So I I'm expecting big things from them though this season, but I can understand putting them lower. Because you hinted on the injury history of Joel Embiid. So I can see that, and that's fair. Um for my number 7, I have the Dallas Mavericks. And I know this is pretty low for a team that was just in the NBA finals, but I'm just gonna break it down a little bit. They added Klay Thompson, Najee Marshall, and Spencer Dinwiddie this season, and they lost Derrick Jones Jr., Josh Green, and Tim Hardaway Jr. And the one loss that I think is gonna affect them a bit is Derrick Jones Jr. because he was a great player for them last season. He was one of their best perimeter defenders. He was a guy who was solid at rebounding. Luka and him had great chemistry. Throwing them lobs all the time. And I think they're just going to miss that element. But their big addition was Klay Thompson. And he has been on the decline as far as his career has been taking, but his decline is not. It's
The
the
decline of
standards
play
for
has
him were
been
just
greatly exaggerated.
yeah. It's just the standards for him were just so high that like any dip is a decline for him. So like for example, he had the second lowest 3-point percentage of his career at 38.7%, which is very very good. But for Klay Thompson, that's a decline. And I kind of think we'll see that come back up because he's coming into a new situation and he'll be able to get his confidence back. I don't think you don't really lose your shot. That's not really something that happens. And I'm not too worried about that. And like I said, 38.7% is not a bad percentage at all. We just hold Klay Thompson to such a high regard that that is a decline and a noticeable decline for him. But I'm not sure how they're going to start off the year. If they're going to start Klay Thompson at small forward and kind of have just a super heavy offensive team and just expect like Derek Lively and Daniel Gafford just to anchor the paint, which I think could work because Luka and Kyrie are that good. But I think their defense is definitely going to take a hit this year. But on the flip side, their offense is going to just go up a whole another level because when Luka's running his pick and rolls or isoing like at the top of the key, you have Kyrie spaced out on a wing and Clay in a corner or however you want to do the spacing. It's just more guys that you have to account for because even if Klay Thompson is having a bad shooting season, you
Can't just
still
leave him
have to
open.
account for Klay Thompson. Yeah, he's
Yeah.
still Klay Thompson. Like he can still light your ass up, and you always got to be worried about him. The big things that I'm kind of looking at for the Mavs next season though is I think it all kind of banks on Luka. How he decides to come into the season. If he's in shape and he is like that performance that he provided last season against like in the playoffs against the Celtics, like his defense was abysmal, and I don't think I think the Celtics were a bad matchup for him, definitely. But still, I think he could have provided a better effort, and I think if he wants to take his team to the next step, he has to work on some of those intangible things to kind of make himself a better player. And then one other thing I kind of was him playing off the ball because he never if he doesn't he kind of has that James Harden thing where if he's not touching the ball, he's not doing anything. He's like just standing like at half like near half court or he's just out of like he's not engaged and it kind of you don't have to account you definitely have to account for Luka, but he has so much gravity if he's doing things and moving around, it draws in
Yeah.
the defense
And
more
it's
and it
like when he
opens
doesn't
things
have
up.
the ball, yeah, he just takes himself out of the play.
Yeah, and you could be opening things up for everyone else, especially when you're playing with these great offensive players now. But I think I have the Mavs this low just because I think their defense is going to take a big hit. I think they missed out having Maxi Kleber in the postseason because he was injured, but I think he's a great stretch four who can guard like 1 through 5. He's a great perimeter defender. And I think they should look at adding some more defenders on the perimeter. So some names like off the top of my head, maybe bringing in a guy like Troy Brown Jr. with a little more size who can he's skinnier, but you don't really have a lot of options at the moment. But I think until they bring in some more perimeter defense, I don't think they're gonna hit that level that they were at last season. But I still have them as the seventh best team coming into the season. So I think they're gonna make some noise. They're definitely gonna be at the top of the Western Conference standings. But yeah, it's just when it comes to playoff time, hitting that ultimate ceiling, I think they need to bring in some more defense to kind of make that happen.
I agree, for sure. And then moving on to my number 7, I have the Nuggets. So as we know, last year after their blunder in the playoffs, I decided to keep them around 7, right? Because I think Jokic kind of showed everybody that he is actually, in fact, human and is capable of being beaten if his supporting cast isn't playing at a high level and his jumper isn't falling, which it really he was kind of struggling shooting in the series against the Timberwolves last year. And yeah, like I think it was just really hard for him to go against like that big tandem of Cat and like Rudy Gobert, especially Cat. Was just playing like amazing defense against him, and it just
Nasri.
helped to have like that duo to like be able to switch off, if people are tired and stuff. So I think, and also think a lot like we touched on this earlier. As much as the addition of KCP to the Magic helped them, I think it equally hurt the Nuggets. He brought that much needed, 3-point shooting and defense to their team. We know who Aaron Gordon is, and he can't really shoot. He actually shot significantly worse than the season before last. I think it shot like 29% last year. Um, it's still Michael Porter Jr., I guess, but then they added Westbrook, so it's like as great as Westbrook will probably be playmaking and like running the offense off the bench, you can't really rely on him for any shooting. So they're gonna look for a lot of development from their upcoming role players, but I think that yeah, like it just doesn't seem to me. I know people are always making a joke about how like Jokic looks like, oh, like he's not invested in basketball. He only cares about like his horses or like whatever. But I feel like this season is actually going to be like the ultimate mental test, and to see if he like really cares about getting back to the top, because I think it'll be very easy for him to just kind of just be like, oh, well, uh, like to kind of just like check out. I'm not saying he's not gonna like try or anything like that, but I mean, if his team isn't supporting him, I think it could be very easy for him to just be like, why, like what I'm saying, like because he's pretty much gonna have to put the team on his back this year if he wants to get anywhere like close to, I think, the performance of what they were capable of last year, which he is capable of doing. But it's just like, I don't know, man. I saw him like for some like the media day stuff, like what I'm saying, he let the fish hair growing out. Like he just looked different, and he kind of looked like even more like checked out than he usually does. But that could just be me though. I don't know. I just kind of thought it was interesting to notice that like switch flip. But yeah, that's why I have the Denver Nuggets at 7. But I think that they could still be a good team in the West, and they're still gonna make the playoffs. But I don't know if they're, in my opinion, like true contenders for the title next season.
Do you think that Russell Westbrook and Jokic, like, or just him with the Nuggets in general, you think that's gonna end up well, or they end up releasing him? How do you see that playing out?
I mean, like, it depends on how he gets used. I guess, like, yeah, like in theory, like you're right. Like, I mean, if it's like if he's playing with Jokic and Jokic is like handling the ball and he can like cut and like throw him lobs and stuff like that, and like be able to kind of like pass and make like smart decisions and get other people open, I think that'll be good. But I feel like he's also struggled because he just like hasn't been making smart decisions along with not shooting very good. But he's still like an insane athlete, so I feel like they think that he can contribute in that way. If other people are playmaking for him, but it just didn't really do anything for like the shooting, and I think that like that is now a glaring weakness for them. Outside of like Michael Porter Jr., but we'll see how that shakes up this season. But yeah, I think it could be good. It could be bad. It really just depends on how which version of Westbrook I guess we're gonna get. You know.
Fair enough. I actually have the Nuggets at my number 6, and a lot of our reasonings are the same. My biggest thing that I wanted to start with was that loss of KCP, because I thought the Nuggets had the most well-rounded starting five, because you had Jamal Murray, you had KCP, you had Michael Porter Jr., you had Aaron Gordon, and then you had Jokic, who all just, it was a perfect fit, and you saw that when they went on their title run and the dominance that they've had since then. But yeah, losing. He was there. I don't know. It depends how you. It's subjective, but him or MPJ could be considered their best shooter. So you're losing either your best or your second best shooter, which is obviously going to hurt you when you don't bring in any shooting to kind of fill in his void. And I know they're kind of banking on Christian Brown to step into that starting two guard role, and I think he will be solid for them, because I think he's a better, more versatile defender than KCP, because he's a little bit bigger and stronger, and he's an insane athlete. So I think as far as their defense comes into play this season, they're going to be a much better defense. But like you mentioned, they don't have a lot of shooting on the roster outside of Michael Porter Jr., Jamal Murray, and then Jokic at times. They don't have much, and then like you're bringing in guys like Peyton Watson. He's not a great shooter, and he's kind of moving into that Brown role off the bench. So they're really buying into their young guys, which I can respect because of how the new CBA works out. Like, you don't want to hit that second apron. So it's all about developing your young guys and having those small contracts on your books instead of having to pay guys super huge contracts to bring in like free agents and stuff. So I get it. But they also got rid of Reggie Jackson. And I know this was to free up space for Russell Westbrook, but I think they traded like 2 or 3 seconds with it. It just didn't make a whole lot of sense. Just to move off of him. But I digress. Moving on to Jokic. The one thing with him, like obviously he was our MVP last year. He was great in the playoffs. Um, but the one thing with him was his 3-point shooting. In the playoffs, he shot 26.4%. On low volume though, he was only taking about 4 a game, but I think this is the kind of element for him that is what kills other teams, because if you have to close out to Jokic hard because he's gonna shoot, he can always drive past you, and as soon as he gets by you, he's so efficient around the rim that, or he can make plays. He can throw the lob. He'll throw a skip pass to the corner. He'll make something happen, and if you don't have to close out to him as hard, or you don't have to, worry about him out there as much, it takes him down just a slight level. Obviously, he'll still find ways to be effective, but I think if he wants to maximize his efficiency and how his team plays next season, I think he needs to be around like 38%. Um, and then the next thing has been Jamal Murray. I don't know what's been going on with him. He was pretty bad compared to his standards in the playoffs. Like his points per game in the playoffs went down about 6 last season. Like he was at about 20. His 3-point percentage was down to 31.5%, and he just didn't look good. Like against that entire Lakers series, he didn't look good. He had a few like game winners, which in certain spots he was good, but like overall he was not. And his defense was kind of lacking. And I don't know if this is just like a lingering injury or his conditioning. I don't know what it is, because he looked bad in the Olympics too with Canada's team. So I don't know what that's all about. But they're gonna need him. Like they're gonna need all hands on deck, like you said, coming into the season. So and then I'm gonna touch on two more things. I think this puts a lot of the pressure on Michael Porter Jr. because now he's the best 3-point shooter. So he's gonna be a lot more like there's gonna be a lot more reliance on him like taking and making 3-point shots, which is gonna add a bit of pressure, but I'm sure he'll be fine in the long run. But you just gotta make sure we take that into consideration coming into next season. And then the biggest thing was the Russell Westbrook edition. I have had the pleasure of watching him very closely when he was with the Lakers. I saw him very closely when he was with the Clippers. And I can see a fit working here. As far as like, I'm thinking like inverted ball screens where, Jokic is the dribbler and Westbrook sets the screen and rolls, like stuff like that. I can see a lot working and him playing off of Jokic. And he adds one thing that the Nuggets haven't really had, and is like a guard that could get to the rim. Because, Jamal Murray is more of like a finesse, like pull up jump shooter. Russell Westbrook, he can still attack the rim even in his older age. He can still get downhill. Still a great playmaker, and he can still play great defense at times. So I'm excited to see how he looks with them moving forward. But I could also see a route where super frustrating, because Jokic, when he gets frustrated, like on the court, he shows it. Like if he's pissed off at one of his teammates, like you can see him. He'll talk, like even though like with the media he's not as expressive. Like he's very expressive while he's playing, and I could just see Westbrook throwing like a crazy turnover or throwing up some bullcrap, and Jokic letting him hear about it. But I'm
Yeah,
excited
like
to see how it looks.
-10 team chemistry for that one,
Yeah,
right?
basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited to see how it looks. But that's kind of why I have the Nuggets this low, and I just think that loss with KCP is gonna really come back to bite them.
Yeah, for sure. Number 6, this is the last one, right? For
Mm-hmm.
today. Okay, yeah. Closing it out with the Milwaukee Bucks. As Caleb kind of touched on earlier, in my opinion, I think the Bucks are really like an enigma, because the last time they were really all actually healthy was like when Giannis finally won his first ring in the Finals MVP in 2021. But since then, like injuries to key players like Giannis, Chris Middleton, kind of stifled their hopes, and they were eliminated in the first round, um, back to back, like by the Heat in 2023 and then by the Pacers in 2024, albeit obviously because of injuries. But to me, it's like you look for Giannis to bounce back, right? In my opinion, he's still a top 3 player in the league when he's healthy. And he's going to give you an efficient 30, 12, and 7. Um, he elevates the play of his team, with his passing. And I think, like you said, Damian Lillard, has been a phenomenal player for as long as we know him in the league. Um, and being like you said, being the top dog on your team for 11 years kind of has like a mental effect on you that he's working out of, still. And like you said, I think you saw it come alive towards the playoffs and him kind of figuring it out. But I will take that with a grain of salt because he could, he's playing better because he kind of was in like the top dog spot because Giannis was hurt. But like, so I look to see how they're actually going to mesh with another full off season of like camp, and practice together. So, yeah, I'm interested to see how that will fit. I think it'll be a lot better. I think they just have to communicate. It's good. It goes back to communication, um, and trusting each other to make plays and trusting himself. Like you said, he was being a little hesitant when I think that he more than has the capability of hitting a lot of those shots and taking those shots. I mean, honestly, if you need a jump shot, he should be the one taking it. I mean, Giannis isn't exactly like a shooter, like, what I'm saying, like, if I needed to go attack the basket and get a foul, or like, if I need like a layup or something to win the game really down two, yeah, give it to Giannis. But if you need a three, you gotta give it to Dame time. So what I'm saying, like, just kind of like knowing their role in the team with each other and like being confident in that, I think is just the biggest thing to elevate their play. And yeah, I'm excited to see what they do in the upcoming season. I think they'll be a lot better, barring again that they all stay healthy, because Damian Lillard is getting older, but again, still very much a formidable offensive player, and still, uh, yeah, I think they have all the capabilities to be a top, like, 3 to 5 seed in the East, if not higher. But yeah, man, we'll see how it shakes up this
Yeah,
season
only
for
time
sure.
will tell.
Yeah.
But that's kind of all we have for today. Like I mentioned at the start, this is just gonna be part one of this installment. Part two, we're gonna have up in the future, and this is gonna cover the rest of our top 10 list. So look forward to that. But now I'm gonna hand it over to Brett to kind of take us home.
Yeah, y'all. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Peer Review podcast today. We had a little bit of a longer episode. We thank you so much for watching it, for tuning in, and for listening. Yeah, to our top 10 NBA teams.
And like we always say, please make sure to share the podcast with your friends and family, as well as follow us on X at @PeerReview_pod and on TikTok at Peer Review Podcast to stay up to date with our latest episode releases.
And again, we personally monitor all of our accounts. We love to hear the feedback. We saw somebody made a comment about wanting us to touch on the Tigers, and yeah, like, I
Shout out,
wish I
Leon.
watched more baseball like right now, like than I did, like I did when I was a kid. But we're for sure gonna try to get back into it. So appreciate you for the suggestion. We're definitely gonna try to talk about some of their what happens in the playoffs with them too. So, yeah, thank you for letting us know if you agree, disagree, want us to cover different topics. Continue to let us know that. And thank you all again. This is the Peer Review, signing off.